I got guava juice for me, and I got some weird stuff to talk about with you.
I gotta believe.
So I've spent the last couple weeks looking up some very obscure handhelds that had like no information about them on the internet. I thought it would be so fun to record my journey finding these handhelds while it was happening. So this whole video was just weeks and weeks of weird research going on. That also means it gets a little bit messy at times, so I hope you deal with that. But overall, this was a really fun video to make. I feel like it ended a bit anticlimactically, so prepare for that. But I've spent way too long on this video to back down now. I just wanted to show you how it really went trying to find these handhelds and how it ended up going. So I hope you enjoy this video. I got my iPad out with the notes, and I got my face showing in this video, so you know we mean business. So basically a few years ago I saw a TikTok. It was someone unboxing this like cute little handheld. It kind of looked like a Game Boy, but it was pink. It was like a Game Girl pretty much. And as someone who collects handhelds, right, this intrigued me. And as someone who likes to look for handhelds to make videos on, this intrigued me more. I wanted to look into it a little bit more, so I did. It's called the MyLife gaming handheld. Well, it's just called MyLife. I could only find four, you hear me, 4 listings of people selling this thing online when looking up stuff for this video, and maybe like 20 YouTube videos and TikToks combined. That's how little content I can find on this thing. In terms of like actual information about it that isn't a video, I could find one article, right, and one subreddit that simply reposted the video, and then the subreddit just died after that. The game it comes with, MyLife, is entirely unplayable unless you have the console in your hand. Mind you, that console is extremely expensive and hard to find. Now, this isn't entirely lost media, right? Obviously, I mean, there's some consoles out there. It's the obscurity of it that just makes it so intriguing to me. I went to r/lost media to ask people's general opinions on this thing, and just sort of if they would even consider this to be almost lost media, because, you know, we don't try to clickbait here. The general consensus was basically yes, it's very much on the brink of being lost. I had someone say it will be lost if it's not preserved or digitized, and someone else mentioned that even though the game isn't really lost, the ability to play the game is what's at risk. So I'm taking it upon myself to actually make videos about this thing. Now, the only source I could find that had a good amount of information about this was VideoGameKraken. The whole summary of the console that I'm about to give you is pretty much entirely from this website, obviously just in my own words. I do want you to know that this is my only source for this though. VideoGameKraken, from what I can gather, is a website owned by one guy, one person, and they have a little FAQ on their website. The TLDR for this website is the owner couldn't really find any website that was dedicated to obscure consoles like this. They wanted to make a website that kind of gathered everything into one place. The information on this site is from extensive research and even interviews with the creator and manufacturers of said consoles. They do not add information that they're not able to confirm, and also they own every console on the website, and they're also open to adding more consoles, so I will happily promote gaming preservation of any kind. Feel free to check that website out if you like. Their Instagram is also really cool. They have a bunch of stuff like this. I just love obscure shit like this, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, what is MyLife? MyLife is an Italian video game handheld released in September of 2007 by these people. I can't pronounce it. They're a toy company that also makes karaoke machines now. Cool. It looks like they really specialized in making action figures for these gourmety figures. Even stuff like Smurfs, Winx Club dolls, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, anything really. Founded in 1978, they produced toys and also TV shows based off of those toys. Video games weren't really their primary concern, but in November of 2005, they dipped their toes into the gaming industry with the Digiblast toy. Digiblast wasn't owned by this company, but it did use a lot of their IPs. After Digiblast, the company kind of had an idea to make a handheld console of their own. While looking for inspiration for this console, they also looked at the success of Second Life, a virtual world type game where users can create avatars, interact with each other. I feel like if you know anything about these types of life sim games, you've probably heard of Second Life, or even games like it, like IMVU. I feel like Roblox can even be considered in this category to some degree. I found out while researching this that Second Life came out in 2003, which is crazy because I swear it was like way later, but it was very popular by 2007, and that was the main inspiration for MyLife. When the console released in 2007, it was apparently very successful. 1 million units sold, by the way. Not off the bat, but you know, it's quite a bit. MyLife had you create avatars, explore a virtual world, play mini games, play dress up, and you kind of had a Tamagotchi / Sims like responsibilities in the game. That's pretty cool. If you knew someone with a MyLife handheld, you could message them if they're nearby and exchange items as well. Kind of similar to Nintendo's PictoChat or later on their Street Pass. I feel like Street Pass is a little more accurate, but whatever. And it wouldn't be a console without DLC. Yes, this game had DLC and expansion passes in the early 2000s or late 2000s. The 2000s. It was very ahead of its time. These were called magic keys. These little itty bitty cartridges you'd buy in the store and pop them in the back of the console like a Game Boy. They usually unlock accessories and different perks, maybe mini games. Expansion cartridges were also a thing. It would unlock new mini games, worlds, characters. There was a Hannah Montana expansion. There were Hannah Montana bundles, and I assume it came with a purple variant because I found a video on TikTok from this account with 0 followers that posted last month the pink and purple MyLife consoles. This is the only video I've seen of the purple handheld. And Hannah Montana consoles were always purple, so I'm just like, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, you know? I'm gonna assume that the purple one was the Hannah Montana bundle because I can't find anything telling me otherwise, and it's literally the only purple one I've ever seen. But anyway, this console was so successful, it released just about anywhere in America until 2008 when it was distributed by a different company. The MyLife was marketed as the first virtual console designed entirely for women, which doesn't feel true, because it's not true. According to VideoGameKraken, there was a handful of other consoles designed for women prior, like the Super Lady Cassette Vision, the Casio Loopy, and the Pelusiata. Okay. Like I said before, this thing sold about 1 million units, which is pretty solid for a 2000s handheld made by a toy company that isn't like Bandai. It continued to be supported until 2010 as it was replaced by a successor, MyRealLife. MyRealLife was basically the sequel console, the PS2 to the PS1, except not that much of a jump. Actually, that's a terrible idea. That's a terrible comparison. More like the Game Boy Advance to the Game Boy Advance SP. The other way around. The SP to the Game Boy Advance. What I'm trying to say is it wasn't that big of an upgrade. It added some quality of life things. It had a digital camera and an MP3 player built in. But besides that, the game was pretty much the same from what I can gather. Again, I can't find a single thing about this. I see the picture that VideoGameKraken provided and an ad that VideoGameKraken provided. I can't find anything else about the MyRealLife. But from what it looks like, it was trying to hop on the train of stuff like the Nintendo DS. From what I can see, it was kind of trying to build off the popularity of the DSi and the other quality of life features that stuff like that had, because everyone had an MP3 player and everyone had a digital camera, and the DSi had both of those things. Those like general media players that everyone loves. That's what I think it was trying to be. But again, I can't find a single thing about this besides pictures and the ad. But I guess not a lot of people knew about this either, because in the US it was discontinued less than a year after it came out. There's not a single place where I can find this thing. Maybe I just need to do more research, but I literally can't find it. But back to the normal my non-real life. Basically, I wasn't able to gather a lot of videos about this thing. And like I said before, I was only able to find a couple listings of this thing. Every single one of them had maybe like 3 people had it in their carts already. Most MyLife consoles are like $300. I was not about to spend $300 on this thing, I am sorry, but I did find one for $150 and it is unopened. Most MyLife bundles come with those little DLC cartridges. This one did not, which is why I assume it's so low, but you'd think that an unopened version of this rare console would be a bit more expensive. So we'll see if we get scammed. But as I'm recording this, I ordered it this morning, and I guess we'll see how that goes. Even though this game kind of seems like it was more of a toy than a console, the game itself does look like it had some heart put into it, and I would really like to see stuff like this being preserved more often. I think the biggest issue with it is just it is such a niche console. I mean, like I said, I could only find 4 of these in the wild, but when I do stumble across videos about these on TikTok or YouTube, it's usually people in the comments that had one of these growing up reminiscing about their memories with this thing and overall being upset that they can't even find one anymore. It looks so campy, and I am excited to test it out and see how it is, but it is kind of sad how often these types of stuff get lost, and these types of things get lost because they're so obscure. I think it's really neat that VideoGameKraken does cover all of these. I had a lot of fun just scrolling through the website and seeing what other weird stuff I could find, but I wish it was a lot easier to preserve this kind of stuff. Even though this is a really niche console, there's clearly a lot of people that really like it, and a lot of people who wish they could play this again without spending hundreds of dollars. So even though it's pretty unlikely, it would be really cool to find a way to preserve this game that I think it would still be nice to at least look at for a bit, you know what I mean? But that's all I got for right now, so you will see me again when I have another update. If it isn't obvious, up to this point in the video, it was supposed to just be about the MyLife console. However, a few days after recording that portion of the video, I discovered something else on VideoGameKraken's website. There was a boy version of this console, and here's how I handled that.
Making beats for a boring dumb shit, freaking gnarly. Don't talk to me.
Jesus Christ, you look terrifying. Okay. So basically, I'm now a few days into researching stuff for this video, right? And in a twisty turn of events, right, Panko? I have discovered a secret third option, the BeHero. So basically, the original MyHero, right? MyHero Academia? So basically, the original BeHero was so darn successful, right, that this Italian toy company grew some ego, and they were like, yeah, we can do this, but target it towards boys, which is totally not an oversaturated market already. The BeHero is a strategy RPG. Oh, sorry. The BeHero is a turn-based strategy RPG that's also a card game. All in one console that looks like a old fat Game Boy. This came out in between, like right in between the MyLife and the MyRealLife. They wanted to recreate the exact same success that the MyLife had, except we all know how that went. The BeHero was supposed to be its own IP in itself. It began work in 2009, and the intent was if it did grow into a big IP, it could also be turned into a TV show like their other IPs. The goal was to make it a multimedia franchise. To try to give it a good, like, successful groundwork thing, they decided to make it a strategy RPG, and they called it BeHero, Be Your Legend. The console looking like a Game Boy and the packaging kind of giving that, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon card kind of vibe was entirely intentional. But instead of cartridges, it used a barcode, which would scan the cards so that you could use the cards in-game, but you could also use it as an actual physical card game. Basically, they wanted their own Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, popular card game. They also had over 800 cards in this set, because they thought that more cards means more purchases equals more money. Obviously. They really wanted this thing to succeed. Apparently they had a really big, like, online marketing campaign for it. And there were 2 versions of this console too. There was one with 6 cards and one with 24 cards. They were extremely confident that the BeHero would be just as popular, if not more, than the MyLife, due to it being more of a video game and not so much as a cozy life sim game, because that's just how it was back then. But they really thought that this thing was going to take off. It did not. The VideoGameKraken site literally says, the October launch turned out to be a disaster with almost no buzz created around the console. A new TV spot was released in November 26, 2010 to try to boost the sales, but it failed to push the new console on the Christmas list for parents. After a disastrous Christmas, they pretty much gave up on the console. The console was rapidly discounted in toy stores, and the card packs were quickly removed from the shelves, removing any hope of the console getting traction a little bit down the line. Basically, all the hope that they had for BeHero to be a decent franchise or anything was just gone. They gave up right away. Something that I feel is pretty obvious, and that VideoGameKraken also mentions, is that BeHero was trying to get into this market that was already pretty saturated. When I think of like strategy RPGs from around this time, I think of Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, Golden Sun. I even think of the Game Boy Advance Kingdom Hearts game. This was a category that was so freaking common, right? I think the age range for this is like 8 to 10. If you have an 8 to 10 year old who really wants to play a fantasy strategy RPG with maybe card game elements, you'd probably get them Pokemon around this time. You'd probably get them a Game Boy Advance and Pokemon, or literally anything else. I understand the mindset of like, oh my gosh, guys, we just made this basically Game Boy that was pretty successful. It was pretty successful to girls, so why wouldn't it be successful to boys, right? Which, yes, that's why there was like a million other handhelds around this time marketed towards boys. It's a silly thought process from them, but it completely makes sense at the same time. Again, according to VideoGameKraken, the game itself is a basic turn-based RPG. After answering a few questions, you're assigned 1 to 6 classes, each with a different ability. The cards, which are required to play, serve as equipment for your character. The rest is pretty standard. You move on an overhead map and try to complete a series of quests. Along the way, you will have random enemy encounters, which will give you experience points, which will then level up your character into making him stronger. That is literally it we have for this. As someone who's into life sims and also strategy RPGs, these both really interest me. However, there's even less about BeHero on the internet than there is MyLife. BeHero did that bad. I could find one listing of the BeHero console on eBay. It's over $100 and it would have to be imported to me, which I already know will be a lot more money. And I am, as tempting as that is, I am not in the point of my YouTube career to even think about spending a couple $100s on a video and not have a dent in my pocket. I really, really want to know more about the BeHero because it looks like there's like 2 videos on it on YouTube. I cannot justify spending more money on this video than I already have. Trying to get the MyLife console for not $300 was already a challenge. And it's even worse of FOMO because there's only one listing on eBay. Maybe in the future I'll get my hand on a BeHero console and actually show you how this game plays. Basically looks like your typical fantasy turn-based RPG from the 2000s, except I'd argue that I would have rather gotten Golden Sun as a gift. But anyway, back to the MyLife. Literally super cool thing happened. Right after recording that video, I realized, oh, I need to find like video footage of the original listing that I was talking about, the one that's about $100. While looking it up, that somebody literal days ago posted a listing of not 1, but 2 brand new in-box BeHero devices for $24. Hell yeah, I bought it. So super cool thing happened again. The entire VideoGameKraken website really interested me while researching for this video that I went out of my way to actually ask the man himself if he wanted to do a little interview. I was just so curious and I wanted to know more about him and why he made this website, and even if he remembers anything about the MyLife and the BeHero itself. I shot him a DM on Facebook and he actually responded. So here's a little interview with VideoGameKraken that I had with him through DMs. I read on your FAQ that you wanted one place to store all the obscure console information you can find. Outside of research struggles, how did your interest in obscure consoles even begin? When I first started collecting, my goal was to collect every console ever made. At that time, I thought I pretty much knew every console, oh boy was I wrong, and that collecting every console wouldn't be that long. When I started looking for a list of all consoles, I realized 2 things. First, no such list existed, and second, that there was a lot of consoles from overseas that I didn't know about. I then started to make a list of all the consoles, but it didn't take long for me to want to start to acquire these obscure consoles. I started by acquiring a cassette Vision from Epoch, a console that is well known in Japan, but that is entirely unheard of in North America. After that, I was hooked and I dedicated myself in finding, collecting, and documenting all obscure consoles. What was the first obscure console you added to the website or found? It was the Palmtex PVS, or Super Micro depending on whom you ask. I stumbled on this on eBay and there was literally no information about it on the time. I did a lot of research, contact ex-employees, etc. When I was done, I wanted a way to share my research. research. This is how I decided to create a website dedicated to the obscure console I was collecting, and the PVS was the first entry. What was the hardest console to find or research, if there is one? By definition, they're obscure because there's not a lot of information on them, so it's never easy. But I guess it was the cassette Vision. It was my first time researching a console where most of the documentation was in another language. Nowadays, we have automatic translation tools, and I know much more my way around relevant resources, but at the time, I remember it was challenging. Do you have a favorite obscure console? That's a difficult question. It's often the last console I discover, but if we're talking about the obscure console I enjoy the most playing with, this is definitely the Capcom CPS Changer, which is a console released by Capcom in 1994 that uses slightly modified Capcom arcade boards as cartridges to the likes of the Neo Geo AES. The console was only produced in 1,000 units. As far as cool design, my choice would be the Casio Loopy, a console that has a built-in sticker printer. I read that you're open to people sending you consoles for preservation purposes. Have you gotten many consoles to put on your website? If so, how many? I even forgot that I have that on the website. Once in a while, there's someone reaching out to me, but 99% of the cases, I already have it and tell them to sell it on eBay or give it to a museum if it's rare enough. But to answer your question, I only acquired one console from someone who wanted the console to be preserved. Why do you think preservation for obscure consoles is important? We are where we are today because of all the efforts of those who precede us. Obscure consoles are often obscure because they failed, but every failure helps shape the gaming industry into a better version of itself. So was it because they were ahead of their time, or because of financial issues, hardware problems, bad timing, or simply because it was a bad idea? We need to remember those consoles and the people who worked very hard to make them, because without them we probably wouldn't even have a PlayStation 5 or a Switch. How did you find out about the MyLife and the BeHero specifically? I stumbled upon it while researching a lot that contained a few magic keys. I immediately loved the concept and wanted to know more. I was lucky enough to find one for sale pretty quickly so that I can research it a bit more. And while researching the MyLife console, I started investigating if Giochi Prezzioli made the other original consoles, and I found the BeHero. This one took me more time to acquire, so I published my article a few years later. It's also a very interesting console. I would have loved to have something like this if I was a kid. What drives your passion to keep these lesser known parts of gaming history alive? First of all, because I like it, but also because I think it's needed. Video game history is pretty young when compared to other fields. We have the chance that many people who worked on these consoles are, in many cases, still alive to tell their story. So we have a unique opportunity to gather as much information as we can before these unsung heroes leave this place. There's a real urgency to do this now. Nowadays, there are video game museums, video game preservation groups, video game university studies, but I don't feel we are well organized around this goal. So as long as I feel I can be useful, I will continue. Lastly, what do you hope people take away when they visit your website or learn about these consoles? I hope people find what they're looking for. For preservationists, relevant information. For people that wanted more information on a console of their youth, a good dose of nostalgia. Video games are supposed to be fun, so learning about them should also be fun. As long as these consoles do not get forgotten, I can say mission accomplished. I am so very happy that VideoGameKraken responded and agreed to do a little interview with me. It was so nice getting to know his thoughts on gaming history, gaming preservation as a whole, and overall I have a lot of respect for people who do their best to find these obscure consoles and preserve them in the way that VideoGameKraken does. I 100% recommend that you check out his website if you're looking to find a console that you completely forgot about, or even just learn something new. Stuff like this never fails to amaze me, and I absolutely loved that I found this website while looking for this video. So thank you so much to VideoGameKraken for the interview. It was so nice getting to know you, and your responses were so well thought out and heartfelt, and I overall just had a really great time reading them. Now we will move on to when the consoles actually arrive. The day has finally come. We got the MyLife in our hands as a brand new unopened thing. I am actually a huge fan of how this looks like visually. This is definitely a design that would pop out to a kid in the store like right away. It's just the way that the box was designed, like you can see why a lot of people were drawn to this right away. I do really hope this works. It is brand new, which is nice, but that also means you can't always test the functionality of this stuff. So I think I'm just ready to open it, to be honest with you. There's so much to do. Shop for clothes, take care of a pet, play games, earn and spend money, keep a social calendar, meet with friends, chart your biorhythms. Oh, they do promote those social keys or whatever they were called. You can even text your friends. That's so cool. I would have loved this growing up. I didn't actually hear about this to be honest. But yeah, I'm ready to open this. So let's just do that. Oh my gosh. That is so in there. Oh my goodness. Am I doing this right? Oh my gosh. I just don't understand why this is so difficult to open. Awesome. There's this little cartridge slot right there. Alrighty. It lives! Oh, thank goodness. I got worried for a second. So, in hindsight, how is the MyLife? Well, it's something. Let me explain, right? I absolutely love the color of the console itself. I absolutely love the aesthetic of the game. It's all just so lovely. The console itself is a pretty plasticky feel. The screen itself is this gorgeous matte finish, which made it perfect for recording. But the bottom of the D-pad was just not responsive half the time. And the buttons are pretty good. They're nice and mushy, but they're not too mushy that it's uncomfortable. I'm a big fan of how it starts with the character creation and choosing your pet, naming your friends, naming you and your pet. It's just all really cute, right? All of this, and then bam, you're now a teenage girl with Sims-like stats, and you have to manage literally everything. You walk around, you get to know everyone, go to school, talk to your friends, manage a low-key failing relationship with your boyfriend, gossip, and all of that super fun stuff. This all sounds so cute and cozy and fun to play, right? Perfect to just sit and chill and play this game for nostalgic purposes. No. Here's what actually happened within the first 10 minutes of me playing this game. I hop into the world and I'm immediately upset. I don't know why, I just am. All of my stats are lowering so freaking fast I didn't even know what to do. I went downstairs and my dad yelled at me for not going to school. Like, sir, I was just born. My cat was then hungry, so I think I fed it right. Real. I aimlessly walked around for like a few minutes. My cat was then feeling unwell and I was told to take it to the vet. My stats kept lowering extremely fast. So not only was the cat not feeling well, neither was I. I was late to school because I couldn't find the school. Everyone hates me. I'm now crying and it's only been 5 minutes. This is kind of confusing me. Also, this D-pad is like so hard to control. It seems like the down arrow isn't always responsive. I think it just depends what I'm doing, really. I also keep trying to click the big button as the A. This is just not working out. I'm a little confused on how to make her happy. Should we look at the manual? Look at this ancient manual. You must see the doctor by medicine. And finally, I read that a lot of people got stuck at the hospital because they're not able to pay for the doctor or something. So I hope that doesn't happen to me. You can get fined for riding a scooter. All right. There's relationships. Interesting. Big fan of this little character right here. Is that a 3D model? Oh dear. What I'm just trying to figure out is how do I make her happy? Oh, we have rivals? Interesting. There's a lot that happens in here. What? This is very, very interesting. Oh, it looks like someone named Dylan is the love interest in this scenario. Oh, so there is school that you can attend. This is interesting. What if we call this guy? Nothing happened. Interesting. Your pet is not feeling well? I just existed into this world. I am just as confused as this cat. After hearing all of those horror stories about getting stuck in a hospital and being unable to pay anything in the hospital, I decided to take a chill pill after what was a crazy depiction of the life of a teenage girl who literally just woke up for the first time. How on earth did kids play this? So this was a little unexpected. I was in the middle of editing the part of the video where I'm unboxing the MyLife, and then I got a notification saying that the BeHero arrived. So this is interesting indeed. The difference in packaging was obviously going to happen, but it's very interesting just how different it actually is. I'm not a huge fan of the character art, but you know, It's unique. This box is a lot heavier than the other one. This part opens up, oh my, and it tells you everything about this game. The Velcro really gave up on this part of it, but it's basically, there's a bunch of little outfits down here. Definitely like the MyLife, but cooler. I really like strategy RPGs, so this is definitely intriguing to me. This guy looks interesting for sure. BeHero, be your legend. Hell yeah. I also see a charging cable in there, which means that this thing is rechargeable. This one needs batteries. I'm very intrigued, so I'm just gonna get right into it if I can figure out where to open this. Icy tape. The unboxing experience for these consoles is very unique for sure. So I'm pretty sure I can just... Are we about to have the same issue? There's like nowhere else to open it from, so... Well, I guess technically there is. But it would just... Okay. We're good. Oh. Oh. The whole back can come off. The manual actually looks really sick. This is a really cool looking manual. Big fan of how this looks. Okay. So I can see where the weight was coming from. Definitely this massive charging block. This is a very hefty thing. And then right here, oh, we got the trading cards. Oh, it came with a lot actually. Wow. Look at all of these super valuable trading cards I got. They all have a bunch of characters and items from the game. There are so many of these, but that's all right. That's cool. It just means we got a lot of things to do. And now for the console itself. There we go. Here it is. Oh, very interesting indeed. Oh, this is a button too. Oh, and it has a headphone jack. Something I was thinking about the original MyLife was I wish it had a headphone port. This one does. This is very interesting. Immediately, I notice right off the bat that this is definitely for people who have played video games before. Obviously, it was marketed towards boys who have definitely played a game or two in the past. And it's 100% because of this form factor, right? It has textured grip, which I did not expect. The D-pad and the buttons are all where they should be. Not a fan of this at all. The speaker's also on top, where on the MyLife your hand would just kind of cover over it, so that's really nice. And overall the design is actually really nice. I kind of like this. Peel this off. Oh, interesting indeed. The MyLife has this matte finish screen, which I really appreciate because it means there's no glare in my recordings. This one has a glare, but it's not that bad. I think this is actually the power button. And this has no charge, as expected. Looks like we're gonna have to open this. Oh. Oh. I forgot this is not from the States. So I'm going to look around for a cable to charge this. Found one. It's an old iHome connector, so I hope it's fine. The button scheme is interesting as it's A, B, C, and X. Unique. Honestly, for the time, I think they did a really good job on these designs, besides this awful button placement. It's not that bad. This is the card part of it, where you just kind of swipe stuff down there. I think that's kind of cool, but this is this is a little overwhelming, I won't lie. Oh my goodness. Well, oh, did it turn on? Oh, it's trying to. In hindsight, how was the BeHero? Way more intriguing than the MyLife, but of course that is a personal preference. Unlike the MyLife, the BeHero doesn't just throw you into the world after creating a character. It actually starts with a story and a tutorial, which makes sense for the genre that it is. Basically, you wake up in the middle of the night to a mysterious crying noise. After wandering around in the dark for a while, you turn on a light and spot a creature thing crying over a book. You don't know this person or this thing, this being, and you ask them why they're crying. They mention this old book brought them here and they don't really know why or what to do about it. You then introduce yourself to the mysterious being and try to comfort them when suddenly the book magically chooses you. The green thing then gives you a rundown on what this could possibly mean and how you're the chosen one, but then the battery died, so I plugged it back in and I waited for it to charge. An immediate difference in quality from the MyLife. Now, I know they're completely different genres and completely different in every way possible, but the MyLife was definitely due for a tutorial or something, rather than just throwing you into this crazy world with stats that lower every time you take a step. The only big downside I had running this console for the first time was the fact that the volume wasn't working, which was super disappointing because the music in the MyLife was kind of cutesy, and I kind of wish that we got to hear the BeHero music. I'm not really huge on the art direction either, but surprisingly it looks really nice in the game. The screen was flickering trying to keep its power since it wasn't connected the first time I decided to record, and it was honestly not too bad, besides the fact that the screen kept dimming, obviously, because it was dying. I actually kind of like the visuals of this game. I feel like this would have been kind of successful if it didn't release on its own thing. And even though the story is a little corny, I was genuinely pretty intrigued by it. Like, I was really curious to see where this would go and where these characters would take us, the player, and other weird things, but it's totally because I'm just a fan of this genre in general. I feel this way about the MyLife, but it's really unfortunate that these two games got stuck on these quote-unquote consoles, I guess. Even though that's totally the point and that's why they were made, there was so much love and care put into both of these games that it makes me feel like it would be kind of fire to see them come back in some way, even though that is most certainly not gonna happen anytime soon. But I am really curious about if somebody out there has like a passion for one of these games and was like, I'm gonna make an emulator on this, and suddenly boom, we can all play this game without having to buy this. But anyway, I was genuinely enjoying my time with the BeHero a lot more than the MyLife, and I think that's just because the game has a way easier entry point, especially if you've played games in this genre before. It is a turn-based strategy RPG, and you attack and equip your armor with the cards given to you. And so by swiping it into the little card swiper thing, you gain armor points, you gain weapon stuff, and everything was just going really great. I was genuinely intrigued and having a fun time, but then the console started to smell like burning plastic. And at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna ignore it. I'm gonna try to get at least through the combat and a little bit more into the story because I am having a really fun time and I don't want this thing to explode at the same time. So I was kind of struggling a bit towards the end, and that's when I was like, you know what, it's not worth smelling burning plastic for this long. I managed to get 10 minutes of BeHero footage before it got so bad I had to turn on a fan and open a window and turn off the BeHero. And that is such a shame because this is such a unique game and I'm so intrigued, but I'm not trying to die at the same time. But again, I really wish that there was an easier way to play these games that wasn't just scurrying through the internet looking for a rare console. Something also interesting I found was on the Wayback Machine, the BeHero site is almost fully intact and visible besides like little things. There were even wallpapers that you could have for BeHero. Yet the MyLife website, though having so many captures, was just not working on my browser, which was super disappointing to see. But it's interesting that even the BeHero had its website archived. That is awesome. So overall, what did I learn today? That obscure consoles are cool. They might be obscure for a reason, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be given spotlight. I feel like I discovered some weirdly hidden gems, even if I didn't get to enjoy them in the exact way that I wanted to. I just had so much fun researching for this video. So much fun even I decided to do a whole little interview for it. But similar to what VideoGameKraken said, a lot of these consoles paved a way for the games that we have now, or the game consoles that we have now. Even if they did flop or not do well, they are still very important parts of gaming history, and I feel like the adventure to even get these consoles makes them worth being in my collection to me, if that makes sense. I don't know, I feel like I learned a lot. Maybe the consoles we found were the friends we made along the way. Anyway, again, I feel like this video ended a bit anticlimactically when it comes to the actual consoles, but in a corny yet inspirational way. I guess it was about the journey. Anyway, this video was so unlike the videos I normally make. Most of my videos have just been me sitting in front of a camera and just twiddling my thumbs around some new topic to talk about for an hour. And even though this video is similar in length to other videos I've made, this one took so much more time and money to make. So I just want to say another thank you to everyone watching this video. As I'm recording this, I'm almost at 5,000 subscribers, which is so crazy to me. And I am so grateful that I have people who are willing to sit through hours and hours of me just yapping about random things I find. So thank you to every single one of you for being along for the ride. And again, one final thank you to VideoGameKraken for responding and giving me such a great little interview. Please check out that website if you haven't already. And honestly, I don't know if I'd ever go these lengths again to find another obscure console, but maybe if I'm very, very passionate about it, I will do something like this again. However, that is all I have for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you were eating or cooking while watching this video, I hope your food turned out great. If you were drawing, I hope your drawing turned out great. And if you were just doing chores, I hope you got your chores done. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend or week or morning or night or whatever it is where you are. I'll see you next week for a new video. Bye bye!